Welcome to GetMoreSports.com. I am your college basketball analyst, William Whelan. Good to be here with you and wishing all of you a happy holidays and a happy new year coming up this week. Also this week, we have 5 games on tap that should absolutely give us a good look about what kind of landscape we have in the college basketball world. A number of ranked teams taking the court, and even one unbeaten getting their first true test of the conference season, hosting a conference foe. Let's get into it. Up first is number 12 Maryland. The Terrapins going up to East Lansing to take on Tom Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans, getting their first taste of Big Ten action. Now this game is quite interesting given that the Spartans entered the year as one of the favorites in a loaded, absolutely loaded Big Ten, or so we thought. But until this point, a number of teams have disappointed. Ohio State, who we'll talk about soon, doesn't look quite as good. Iowa also having their struggles. Iowa State, inconsistent. Michigan, surely not the team that we thought they were, although, as I said, we'll talk about them also later. But Michigan State, favored by 3.5 points, hosting Mark Turgeon and his Terps coming in to the freezing north. What is going to happen? Well, it's going to be a key battle between two teams with opposite strengths. Michigan State wants to defend inside, wants to go inside, and wants to win the rebounding battle. Tom Izzo's teams are always formidable in the paint, always improving as the year goes on. He never shies away from early season battles, and this year was no different. And it always turns into somehow, some way, a tested team come March that's ready to make a run in the big dance. This year's Maryland team is a bit different than we've seen. They've had flashy guards under Mark Turgeon before. They've had guys that could put the ball in the basket. They haven't had a complement of characters like they do this season. And it's all tied together by freshman point guard Melo Trimble. He looks no different now than he did a year ago. Confident, calm, able to knock down the outside shot, and completely and utterly in control at seemingly all times. Melo Trimble is surely one of the candidates for Big Ten Freshman of the Year, and he's also got his backcourt mate, Des Wells, back, who turned in 10 points in Maryland's win just the other night in his first game back from injury. Up next are the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Ohio State Buckeyes, two teams that have somewhat underperformed coming up into this point. However, now we get a true test of what each one is all about. The Hawkeyes are going to be headed to Columbus, headed to take on the Buckeyes on the road as we open conference play. Now, what the Iowa Hawkeyes have on the outside is certainly formidable. They are led by guard play that is as good as many teams in the Big Ten. However, they do not have the young man named D'Angelo Russell that the Ohio State Buckeyes and Thad Matta has at his disposal. D'Angelo Russell was one of the top point guards coming out of high school a year ago. He has looked no different, as I said, with Trimble, now that he's on the college basketball court. What I look for is an Ohio State team to control the defense along the perimeter, as Thad Matta's teams have often done under his tenure, and ultimately prove too powerful for the Iowa Hawkeyes. I look for the Buckeyes and Maryland to start 1-0 in Big Ten play. Up next is another Big Ten tilt, this one between the Michigan Wolverines and the Illinois Fighting Illini. Now, this one is going to be played up in Ann Arbor and pits two teams looking to get on track heading into conference play. Both have underachieved a little bit, especially the Wolverines, who many thought could at least contest to finish near the top of the Big Ten. Now, there's certainly time left as Karis LeVert and Zach Irvin form an absolutely dynamic duo, pouring in nearly 30 points per game for Michigan. Michigan has the talent. They have personnel. We're all just kind of wondering, when is it going to come together? As they face a conference foe, this would be the perfect time. Now, Illinois certainly has talent, specifically on the perimeter, as they always seem to do. Every single year, I feel like we're talking about a new shooting guard playing down there in Champaign, and this year is no different. Illinois will look to score the ball, of course, specifically from the perimeter. Whether they are able to do that against Michigan remains to be seen. However, Michigan's getting 3 points here, and I actually like the Wolverines to cover that spread to start off Big Ten play. Now let's head down south to Florida, where two in-state rivals will take on each other December 30th. We've got Florida State hosting Billy Donovan and the Gators of Florida. Now, Florida is favored by 5.5 points here. However, the Gator season has not gone as we thought it might. The Gators sit here at 7-4, looking to get on track before they get going in the SEC and try to follow up a magical run a year ago by hopefully presenting a challenge to Kentucky, who looks to duplicate what the Gators did a year ago and go undefeated in SEC play. Now, what we've got here with Florida is a case of underperforming stars. None bigger than Chris Walker, a talented recruit, a top 10 recruit coming out of high school, numerous five-star accolades by the ranking and recruiting services. Chris Walker didn't play much last year, deemed partially ineligible. And then this year, looking to take that next step. However, he has not been able to. Struggling to get going, struggling to find consistency. What the Gators are going to have to do is get guard play going. They're going to have to step up and take some pressure off the big man, get out in transition by getting stops on defense, and hopefully get him some easy looks. He thrives in the open court, extremely athletic and fluid. Will he be able to do that with this team against Florida State? Who knows? The Seminoles are not known for open court style and love to bog it down and make you win in a half court style game. But if there are any coach in the country that I trust to win that type of game, despite it not going to his team's strengths, Billy Donovan surely has to be in that conversation. Florida State's getting 5.5. Pardon me, Florida is. And I'm taking the Gators. On New Year's Eve, we head to the Mountain West Conference, a conference known for putting out teams like New Mexico, San Diego State, UNLV into the NCAA tournament with high seeds, only to see some of those high expectations fall a bit short. Now, of course, the Aztecs have made their run the last number of years and have knocked off teams like Kansas on the road. The Aztecs, though, do not enter the conference season as the highest-ranked squad. No. That team lives in Fort Collins, Colorado. Larry Eustachy's Colorado State Rams are one of the few undefeated teams left in the country, and they will host Boise State on New Year's Eve. Now, Moby Arena up in Fort Collins is known to get rowdy when the Rams have things going. I expect absolutely nothing less. The combo of J.J. Avila and Daniel Bejarano has proved very vital for Larry Eustachy over the last 2 years, except this year he has help. None more important than John Gillen as a matchup nightmare at the point guard spot. Now the Rams are more than just a two-man, three-man team. Larry Eustachy is known for taking transfers and JC guys and turning them into contributors one way or another. This team embodies his toughness on the defensive end, his ferociousness on the boards, and his quirkiness on offense. They just get things done. I'm looking for the Rams to take care of business and stay undefeated as they open conference play. However, this is going to be an interesting team to watch. They have yet to face too much adversity. In fact, heading down to Boulder to face the University of Colorado, where they squeaked out a win, has been their toughest test yet. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle opposing arenas like Wyoming, like San Diego State in conference play, but we got them starting 1-0. The final game that we're going to look at this week are the Washington Huskies, led by Lorenzo Romar, traveling down to beautiful Berkeley, California, to take on the Golden Bears of California. Now, Lorenzo Romar and Cunzo Martin, two different coaches, two similar styles. They like their guard play. Specifically, they like putting a lot of onus, a lot of responsibility, and a lot of pressure on their point guards. And we've got two of the best in the West and two of the best in the country matching up in this game. Nigel Williams-Goss of Washington and Tyrone Wallace of the University of California. Now, if you tuned into our podcast, you know that I have Ty Wallace as one of the absolute contenders for the Wooden Award this year. In fact, I've got him as the favorite at this point. Ty Wallace definitely is one of the most improved players in the country, if not the most, and right now sits at definitely the most underrated one that we've seen. But this game will come down to the front court. In fact, we've got a guy in Robert Upshaw leading the country in blocks per game up in Seattle. Now I know what you're thinking. Washington did just take their first loss to Stony Brook the other night. Sure, Stony Brook is probably going to play in the NCAA tournament. But that is not a loss that you can leave at home, especially when you're leading by double digits at one point. Going into Berkeley is going to be a different task. The Bears are led by a trio of guards in Jordan Matthews, Ty Wallace, and then you have the combination off them that is absolutely lethal when we throw a guy like Jabari Bird into the equation. What I look for in this game is if the Cal guards can finish at the rim going against Robert Upshaw. If Robert Upshaw can stay out of foul trouble, if he can keep things composed underneath and stop and maybe not even get overwhelmed by the pressure coming back to his home state, I think Washington's got a good shot here. However, if the Cal guards get going, if David Kravish underneath is able to somehow neutralize Robert Upshaw, I think the Golden Bears have a good shot in knocking off another ranked opponent, this time in Washington. Ultimately, I'm going with the home team. It's hard to win on the road, and as I said on the podcast, I wasn't exactly sure what we've seen out of Washington is what we're going to get for the whole year. Give me the Bears at home, and if the spread's anything under 4, take the Bears. Well, I'm William Whelan. Thank you very much for tuning in to our first Weekly 5. This segment will be airing every Tuesday morning from here on out.